Lynnette Perez Pizarro, and my current position is a controller at Novak Francella CPA firm.
So in terms of your career, it spans in finance, corporate leadership, and advocacy. What inspired you to pursue this path? And I'm sure it hasn't been easy. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thanks for that question. So my journey was shaped by the desire to create meaningful change and break down of barriers and for the communities that have been historically undeserved, right? So early on, I saw the power of financial literacy, leadership in transforming lives that inspired me to pursue a career in accounting and corporate leadership. And as I grew in and I advanced in my career, I realized that true empowerment comes not just from economic growth, but also from advocating for systemic change. My experience in both sectors have taught me the importance of collaboration, resilience, and the need to diverse voices in decision making. Today, I think I'm driven by belief that we all have the responsibility to uplift others and create spaces where everyone can thrive. This journey has shaped me into someone who is constantly seeking new ways to bridge gaps and advocate for those who need it the most.
So you touched on advocacy, and I think that your role at a national level speaks to that, that word and the work that you've done, not just professionally, but also thinking of the next generation and uplifting others. So you've earned multiple awards, which recognizes, your leadership and your impact at a national level. Which of those awards has been the most meaningful to you, or more than one?
I think the first one, which is the highest one for at Alpha, would be the Women of Alpha Award. It is the most prestigious award that is given at the Alpha organization, and it's most meaningful because it's recognized not just for my leadership, but also for my tangible impact that I had on empowerment and mentorship. It validated my commitment to making a difference and reinforcing my dedication to continuing that work. My other award, I think, would be when I started working with ERGs, initially with an organization a few years ago where they gave me the ERG Leadership of the Year Award. And it was because that's where I think it kind of clicked. And in regards to what my purpose was, in regards to that advocacy, that knowledge and that purpose of wanting to make sure that they see the Latino community that makes that impact, not just on, a role, but social impact in regards to buying power, in regards to the bottom line. So that's where I think it really started to take off when it came to what I do now.
Got it. And it's speaking of what you're doing now, so I understand that you've been on the corporate side most of your career. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently as a controller for Novak Francella CPAs?
So Novak is a organization or a CPA firm that is very niche. So they only work with labor unions and benefit funding. They have a few nonprofits that they deal with, but the niche is mainly the labor unions. It is very unique, but they do it across all spans. So they have audit, they have the controllership, government filing, payroll compliance, and they're located in 4 different cities, or 5, I should say. So Philly being one of them, New York, DC, Boston, and Connecticut. And they are really a CPA firm that really works with the client and their gaps, but not only doing the work for them, but teaching them how to do the work for themselves. So I think that's why I was so interested in this organization.
Got it. And now, we spoke about Alpha and at the national level, but also, you're involved in the local chapter in Philadelphia. For those who don't know what Alpha is, what is Alpha?
Alpha is an organization. It is global. Right now, we can say it's global. We just went into Canada and now Puerto Rico. We are across the United States. We have about 40 plus chapters and over 250 student chapters. We are a leadership. We are mentorship. We are professional development. We give access to all of our partners in regards to our extreme, really well organized pool of talent for internships for those who are in transition and those just looking to for that next role to keep moving up the ladder. We also give those opportunities of working with the community. We are very inclusive, and it's because it's fostering a strong professional network. And over the years, the organization has grown into a more inclusive community, providing greater opportunities in, as I said, in mentorship, development, leadership with the Latino community, not just in the U.S., but globally. So it continues to evolve. It continues to look at all the markets, not just finance and accounting, which is how it started. So they touch on every aspect of every sector that we have currently.
And what drove you to be interested in Alpha? Like when you first, heard about it.
So this actually goes back to what I was saying of where it started. So the organization has sent 5 of us to check out what Alpha was. They didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was. And we went just kind of like a feeler. We wanted to see what it was about. And from then on, it just took off. I've been part of it for over 15 years now. And more than 15 years, actually. And I started, when I went to my first conference, I was introduced to the Philadelphia chapter by Lynnette Perez, who is from the New York chapter, who is my dearest friend still today, and is still a really good support. And he introduced me to Alpha Philadelphia, where they were still very new. And I held many roles there. I was membership director, I was executive VP, and then I became president, and now I sit on their CAB. So it was a great journey, which then led me to be part of Women of Alpha, which is on a national level. And that is a specialty program that specifically is towards women, Latinas, who and that show their commitment, not to only what they do in professional, but to their community. They're trailblazers. We have the youth that, they look at what we're doing and they want to be able to foster. We want to be able to foster that to them, to their youth, and to those who are growing in their roles, and those that are still in school. So now in Women of Alpha, I also held different roles. I started as a committee member, and then I was a lead, then I was a director, and now I'm very proud to say I'm the chair for the overall Women of Alpha, which has been a very rewarding position, where it gives me the opportunity to just strengthen all areas of what leadership is. It's just a very rewarding and special time for me to say, this is where I am and what I want to emulate in regards to what Women of Alpha is. And we are, so many chapters do a Women of Alpha program, but then now we have all our student chapters actually also doing a Women of Alpha program. So that was like an initiative that we've been trying to do, and we're so happy that that's happening now.
So now to touch a little bit about the challenges and barriers, reflecting on what you've seen at the national level compared to like the local chapters, are those barriers the same? And what are some of those barriers that you've seen, that you've encountered, throughout your career? And then, looking at a national scope of things in your involvement with Women of Alpha, Yeah, can you talk to us a little bit about the barriers?
I think the barriers are the same across the board. Obviously, depending on the role and the position that you're in, I don't think the barriers are any different. As a Latina and an accountant in corporate America, where I started, barriers often include facing stereotypes, underrepresentation, limited access to such as promotions and mentorships. And I think that in those areas, we have learned through, I think, any organization, most of the organizations that are out there now, but through Alpha, it gives us those tools and resources of how to get past that, to how not to take no for an answer, and be able to create those connections as you go through your journey of whatever role you're in, to help that be a staple and a stepping stone to have your mentors or your champions, because sometimes you need those. You need those who are going to speak on your behalf when you're not in the room. And it's important for us to be on the forefront. Never be afraid to say what you have to say. Never shy away from any question. And if you don't know it, just say you don't know it. It's being authentic. And I think when we think of barriers these days, I think are very good at, and I should say Alpha is very strong in making sure that all of our individuals can navigate through those barriers and giving them all the necessary tools and resources to be able to do that.
Great. And, not to get political,
Yeah.
but, we've seen a lot of conversations around DEI and whether, that should be part of the company culture. Do you what are your thoughts around, DEI in organizations, and should people continue, with these types of initiatives? Does it help? Your work is around numbers. Does it help the bottom lines when you have corporations or unions that are more diverse?
It is unfortunate. I think in this administration, things are changing, and it's whether we like it or not. But I would say that DEI does impact your bottom line, and not for the worse. It impacts it for the positive all over across. However, companies, I think, can continue to better support diverse talent by creating inclusive cultures, providing equal opportunities for advancement, and actively promoting mentorship and sponsorship programs. Additionally, implementing transparent hiring practices and offering resources for professionals and developing are key to fostering an environment where the diverse employee can thrive. I don't think what I'm saying is new. Rather, it needs to be a constant reminder, right? I know that the companies are shying away or pretty much eliminating it at this point. However, it's not something that they need to remove internally. I think that that having a diverse selection in regards to their staff in all areas should still be something that they should embrace and be able to continue to support, because it is a positive, it's not a negative.
Great. And now talk to us a little bit about the National Conference of Puerto Rican Women and the work that you're doing there.
Oh, it's a great number to say. It has been around for 53 years. And it's commendable, and it has been sustainable. It has a diverse community. They're dedicated to supporting social impact, advocacy, which is something that we are concentrating on. NACOPRO at this time is going through a more operational restructuring so that we can last another 53 years around the leadership and development of our chapters. We currently have 7 chapters, and we're trying to build 2 more in the coming years. However, we continue to build our footprint by building relationships and collaborating with other organizations such as Grupo 21 and Alpha. And we look to communicate and collaborate with other areas as well. We have also been strategic by having events in the DC area, which is our, I say, corporate space, where it's one of the ones that we want to create another chapter, but that's our hub, right? When it comes to strengthening our advocacy initiatives that are aligned with the mission and the values of NACOPRO. We are also preparing for our annual conference in Puerto Rico, where we're also going to hold our national elections. And the reason it's in Puerto Rico is because, we're Puerto Rican women, and where else to have a national conference than in Puerto Rico. So we're looking forward to that, and we're hoping that, anybody and everybody can attend that conference, because we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I will also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask if you can share more details about that and how people can, register or get information about it.
So the conference is going to be held in November. It's November 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's that weekend. It's right now, we do not have a venue at this time. This is something we just started working on, but we should have a date, save the date and the location in the next couple months.
And if people want to find out more about it, what is the site or social media?
So they can go to www.nacopro, N-A-C-R, and I always forget the acronym.
NACPRW, right?
Yeah, .org. And then there's also, you can send an email if you want more information to president@nacopro.org for any additional information or connection. But that is the easiest way to be able to become part of the network. I also say that we have chapters. Again, we do have a Philadelphia chapter, and that they can become members of. But wherever they are, we can always guide them on those, if there is a chapter in those cities, and who to connect to.
Got it. And I had a question about the fundraiser for Hurricane Maria.
Oh, yeah. Doing that, we did participate in a coalition, and it was NACOPRO was was part of a collective coalition, which included Concilio, Congreso, APM, Aspira, Councilwoman Maria Quiñones, and Bonnie Camada from Salvation Army. So I think that's pretty much all of them. There might have been a few more. It was the power of a community to work together for one purpose, right? To raise funds for Nuestra Isla. And two things came out of it. We delivered directly to the island with the help of the Salvation Army to the pueblos that needed it the most. Secondly, the remainder of the funds, we were able to create microloans to help people rebuild. We also partnered with FEMA and OEM, the Office of Emergency Management, and had daily calls to give them direction on how to support the coalition. So it was an amazing coalition that just did so much for the Puerto Rico during that really tragic and chaotic time, and we hope that is like, a legacy that we can proudly say that we were part of.
And now let's talk a little bit about the future and advice to the community. So you've mentored and empowered so many women through networking and sponsorship. What's one piece of advice that you always share with aspiring leaders?
I always say invest in building genuine relationships. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself, because at the end of the day, you're your own success, right? At the end of the day, you are your own achievement. Success often comes from the support of others that are having the confidence to seize the opportunities. So always look at yourself as your own business, that if you are not putting that effort, and it's like one of those a magnet, right? So people will see who you are and what you're about and what you're thriving to, and those people will just start to look at you and support you and advocate for you. So always build those relationships. Those relationships are extremely important when you're building a business, when you're in any form of journey when it comes to your profession. It's just, connection is important. And those type and different connections, because it can definitely put in buckets on those areas where you need them the most?
I feel like, Philly is a very like parochial city. And a lot of times, we get caught up in our everyday life, and we're so focused on everything that's happening in, your neighborhood and anything that's happening in the city. But we forget that there's a larger world out there, and I think that you do that very well. Like, you're always participating in different things and very involved in the community. But then you're also able to unplug yourself from the city and participate in a larger national conversation. What's your advice to leaders, to young leaders who are caught up in their everyday life in Philly and forget about, the more opportunities, more, influence? Tell us a little bit about that and how you're able to manage both.
So in there, I'm very intentional when it comes to my process of continuous learning. And it's not just, podcasts and scrolling through the social media, having that one-on-one conversation with so many different people that are not in your space. I'm an accountant by trade, but I don't always talk to accountants because it's not my only thing that I want to learn. There's technology, there's, like I said, an advocacy, there's, I don't know, maybe it's something that I want to learn about how to be an entrepreneur. So in order for the person to grow and be able to just expand that knowledge, it's just so important to continue to not shy away from talking up those space of advocating again for yourself and in any way, shape, or form. Be confident and don't wait for opportunities to come to you, because at the end of the day, you have to create them. If you're going to sit there and just wait for people to come to you and then tell you, okay, I see this opportunity, you're going to wait forever. So I think embracing continuous learning, finding ways to give back to the community. I'm big on that. I'm volunteering on any areas that you feel comfortable with is important. Empowering others to always, it always comes full circle when you're doing that, right? And lastly, I said, be persistent in overcoming challenges, as the road to success is not always smooth. It has its obstacles, but your determination will make a difference. But you have to be determined. You can't take no as something that is a debilitating. Take no as a powerful word to say, I know I can do this. And no matter how many no's you get, you're always going to get a yes eventually. And as long as you keep that in mind, I think you're like, you can't go wrong with that.
Great. Any final comments or anything else that you wanted to add?
Let's see. I would say the person is capable of achieving great things with confidence, with resiliency, and no matter what challenge arises, it will always guide you towards your success and those things that you want to achieve at.